Out there in the cold water, far from land, we waited every night for the coming of the fog, and it came, and we oiled the brass machinery and let the fog light up in the stone tower. Feeling like two birds in the gray sky, McDoon and I sent the light touching out, red, then white, then red again, to eye the lonely ships, and if they did not see our light, then there was always our voice, the great deep cry of our foghorn, shuddering through the rags of mist to startle the gulls away, like decks of scattered cards, and make the waves turn high and foam. It's a lonely life, but you're used to it now, aren't you? Asked McDoon. Yes, I said. You're a good talker, thank the Lord. Well, it's your turn on land tomorrow, he said, smiling, to dance the ladies and drink again. What do you think, McDoon, when I leave you out here alone? Oh, the mysteries of the sea? McDoon lit his pipe. It was 7:15 of a cold November evening, the heat on, the light switching its tail in 200 directions. The foghorn bumbling in the high throat of the tower. There wasn't a town for 100 miles down the coast, just a road which came lonely through the dead country to the sea, with few cars on it. A stretch of 2 miles of cold water out to our rock, and a rare few ships. The mysteries of the sea, said McDoon thoughtfully. You know, the ocean's the most confounded big snowflake ever. It rolls and swells 1,000 shapes and colors, no two alike. Strange. One night years ago I was here alone. Then all of the fish of the sea surfaced out there. Something made them swim in and lie on the bay, sort of trembling and starting up the tower light, going red, white, across them so I could see their funny eyes. I turned cold. They were like a big peacock's tail moving out there until midnight. Then without so much a sound, they slipped away. The million of them was gone. I kind of think maybe in some sort of way they came all those miles to worship. Strange. But think how the tower must look at them standing 70 feet above the water, the godlight flashing out from it, and the tower declaring itself with a monster voice. They never came back, those fish. But don't you think for a while they thought they were in the presence? I shivered. I looked out the long gray lawn of the sea stretching away into nothing and nowhere. Oh, the sea's full. McDoon puffed his pipe, nervously blinking. He had been nervous all day and hadn't said why. For all our engines are so-called submarines, it'll be 10,000 centuries before we set foot on the real bottom of the sunken lands in the fairy kingdoms there. And no real terror, think of it. It's still the year 300,000 before Christ down under there. While we paraded around with trumpets, loping off each other's countries and heads, they have been living beneath the sea 12 miles deep and cold in a time as old as the beard of Comet. Yeah, it's an old world. Come on, I got something special I've been saving up to tell you. We ascended the 80 steps, talking and taking our time. At the top, McDoon switched off the room lights so there'd be no reflection on the plate glass. The great eye of the light was humming, turning easily in its oiled socket. The foghorn was blowing steadily, once every 15 seconds. Sounds like an animal, don't it? McDoon nodded to himself. A big, lonely animal crying in the night, sitting here on the edge of 10 billion years, called out to the deeps. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. And the deeps do answer, yes they do. You've been here now for 3 months, Johnny, so I better prepare you. About this time of year, he said, studying the murk and fog, something come to visit the lighthouse. The swarms of fish, like you said? No, this is something else. I put off telling you because you might think I'm daft, but tonight's the latest I can put it off. For if my counters mark right from last year, tonight's the night. It comes. I won't go into detail. You'll have to see it yourself. Just sit down there. If you want tomorrow, you can pack your duffel and take the motorboat into land and get your car parked there at the dingy pier on the Cape and drive back to some little inland in town and keep your lights burning night. I won't question or blame you. It's happened 3 years now, and this is the only time anyone's been here with me to verify it. You wait and watch. Half an hour passed with only a few whispers between us. When we grew tired of waiting, McDoon began describing some of his ideas to me. He had some theories about the foghorn itself. One day, many years ago, a man walked along and stood in the sound of the ocean on a cold, sunless shore and said, "We need a voice to call across the water, to warn ships. I'll make one. I'll make a voice like all of time, and all of the foghorn that ever was. I'll make a voice that is like an empty bed beside you all night long, and like an empty house when you open the door, and like the trees in autumn with no leaves. A sound like the birds flying south, crying, and a sound like November wind and the sea on the hardcore shore. I'll make a sound so that no one's alone and no one can miss it, that whoever hears it will weep in their souls and hearts. We'll see you murmur and being inside. We'll see better to all who hear it in distant towns. I'll make me a sound on an apparatus, and they'll call it a foghorn, and whoever hears it will know the sadness and eternity of the briefness of life. The foghorn blew. I made up that story, said McDoon quietly, to try to explain why the thing keeps coming back to the lighthouse every year. The foghorn calls it, I think, and it comes, but, I said. "Sss," said McDoon. There, he nodded out to the depths. Something was swimming toward the lighthouse tower. It was a cold night, as I have said. The high tower was cold, the light coming and going, the foghorn calling and calling. Through the raveling mist, you couldn't see far and you couldn't see plain. But there was the deep sea moving on its way about the night. Earth, flat and quiet, the color of gray mud, and here were two of us alone in the high tower, and there far out of the first was a ripple, followed by a wave, a rising, a bubble, a bit of froth, and then from the surface of the cold sea came a head, a large head, dark-colored with immense eyes, and then a neck, and then not a body, but more neck and more. The head rose a full 40 feet above the water on a slender and beautiful dark neck. Only then did a body, like a little island of black coral and shells and crayfish, drip up from the subterranean. There was a flicker of tail. In all, from head to tip of tail, I estimated the monster at 90 or 100 feet. I don't know what I said. I said something. Steady, boys, steady, whispered McDoon. It's impossible, I said. No, Johnny, we're impossible. It's like it always was 10 million years ago. It hasn't changed. It's us and land that have changed, become impossible. Us. I swam slowly and with a great dark majesty out in the icy waters. Far away, the fog came and went about, momentarily erasing its shape. One of the monster's eyes caught and held and flashed back our immense light. Red, white, like a disc held high and sending a message in Primeval code. It was as silent as the fog through which it swam.